Welcome back to Aristotle Topics. Okay, today's lesson will be on comparison arguments. And we have 3 types. So let's see if you can guess what the 3 types are. So, number 1, we have whenever we place 2 things side by side, A and B, this is one way of looking at comparison arguments. So when we place A and B next to each other, we then yield 3 possibilities for this juxtaposition. The first possibility is A equals B, that they are similar, that there's an analogy. Okay? So, if we are back to, let's think about our Jesuit topics. Can we put 2 things side by side? And again, these can be settings, characters, could be symbols, it could be, an occasion is a setting. So, we might say, for instance, that football and rugby are essentially the same core movements. We might say that an English essay argument is set up the same as a scientific lab report. We might also say, I like this one, that the paragraph in English, the argument paragraph in English, is the geometry proof. Right, so we've got some similarity issues. Now, number 2, we say A is, and I don't know the best sign for this because it's not exactly cross out, but it is different. So we might say, they still fall in the same category. So if we talk about essays, for instance, the essay for English differs from the essay in history. It's not exactly the same, but it falls in the same broad category, but we're going to identify some slight traits of difference. We could go back and say the same thing about, we could write a contrast argument about our football and rugby claim, that there is some slight difference. So they fall under a, let's say, a sport, a physical sport with a ball. But they have some differences. Okay? Very exciting. Now, we're going to move to number 3, and that is A is greater than or less than B. This is the degree argument. So, again, you put two things side by side. And let's say, okay, we're going to go back to our football because I've heard lots of arguments about this. That football is, and then rugby, so we've got our two things side by side. But we might say that football is more difficult or less difficult or more technical than rugby or football. So, this is to put two things side by side and focus on degree. Now, so if we go back to In Cold Blood, we put Perry and Dick side by side. We could do several things. We obviously, this is my difference new mathematical formula. So we could run contrast. They are contrasting villains, right? They have different aspects of villainy to them. Or we could say, if we're running a degree argument, we can say that Perry is more villainous or more evil than Dick. Okay? So again, comparison takes two things, settings, characters, could take symbols, it could take concepts too. So for instance, I have some friends at Covenant School. They have, both of our schools, Jesuit, they're both Christian schools. We could place Covenant and Jesuit profiles next to each other. They both have a similar document. And we can say that they are similar. We could say that they're contrasting, or we can say one is greater than another. So, what do we think about Gatsby? We can put characters side by side. Tom. We have Daisy. Maybe we put Daisy and Myrtle side by side. They're both wives that are in unideal marriages, so they could be similar. We could also focus an argument that they are contrasting. And we could say that perhaps Myrtle violates the marriage or is more sinful. Is Tom, who is he like? Is he like Gatsby? And what about, are there places, so settings? We might have the New York apartment, which has some debauchery and frolicking and bacchanalian activities. And we might have Gatsby's parties. So they both fit under some sort of Bacchus-like situation of the rave, the illicit gathering, the unideal party archetype. So we may say they're similar. We may say we're going to focus on the contrasts of them. We may say one is more debaucherous than the other. And there we go, another lovely session. And next up, we're going to do a little bit of classification. Exciting.